मर्चेंट ऑफ वेनिस एक्ट 1 सीन 1 का लाइन बाय लाइन एक्सप्लेनेशन होगा, तो वीडियो को लाइक कर दीजिए। आज के हमारे टीचर हैं मिसेस रेशमी मैम।
Today we are going to start with The Merchant of Venice. It is a play which is written by William Shakespeare. It is mainly for the ICSE students, class 9s and class 10s, who are going to appear and opt for this drama, The Merchant of Venice. We are going to start with Act 1, but before we start, I'll give you a small two-liners so that you are introduced well with the play. See, William Shakespeare was a playwright and also a sonnet writer. He wrote a number of poems and also a huge number of plays. Okay, so this play is both a comedy as well as a tragedy. You know, he wrote two types of plays mainly. One was the tragedy, which had a sad ending, and the other was a comedy, which you can understand very well that it always ends with a happy ending. But there are few plays which are a combination of both of them. That means happiness and sadness. It is a mix of both, mix and match of both. So that kind of a play is The Merchant of Venice. It is therefore called the tragicomedy. Okay. So now the scene begins. The opening scene is set in a street of Venice. You know, Venice is a place, name of a place, and it starts at a street of Venice. Antonio is one of the main characters of the story, and he is a very wealthy merchant of Venice, and his two friends, we also meet his two friends, Celerino and Selina. They are communicating, they are talking with one another, and you will meet some of the other important characters also. Now, see Act 1, Scene 1. It is already written Venice, a street. So, where does this scene takes place? A question can come like this. You have to say that it is a street in Venice. See, who are the characters? These questions are very important. 1 mark, 2 mark questions can come from here. Who are the characters who are there in Act 1, Scene 1? Okay, when they were talking with one another. Who were those people? They were Antonio, Celerino, Selina. So you have to remember the names. First, Antonio. In sooth, see, all the words which are difficult are written in red. The meanings of the words are written in red. You can write them down in your book if you want. In sooth means honestly. I know not why I am so sad. See, Antonio is a person who always has a very sad mood. Okay, holds on to a sad mood. Always very sad in his appearance. So, his friends are worried. When you are sad, your friends, your parents have become worried, isn't it? Similarly, when Antonio meets his friends are also worried that why Antonio is so sad. So Antonio replies to them in sooth, that means honestly, I know not why I am so sad. He is not aware of the reason that why he is sad. It varies. You already know what is the meaning of varies. It means tired. I am very tired of this kind of behavior of mine. Why I am so sad, I don't know. You say it varies you. Obviously, your friends will also be worried if you are sad, isn't it? But how I caught it, found it, or came by it. What is the word? What do you mean by it? It means the sadness. He is always so sad. Now, when his friends ask him, why are you sad? He cannot give a proper answer. He says, I myself do not know the reason behind my sorrow. What stuff it is made of? What stuff it is made of means I do not know the reason for my sadness. I don't know what happened that made me sad. Whereof it is born, from where I got this sadness, what was the reason behind it? I am to learn, which means I do not know yet. I am yet to know the reason behind my sadness. And such a want which sadness makes of me, that I have much ado to know myself. Such a want which sadness makes of me. That means as I do not know the reason behind my sadness, it is also very difficult to know my own self. I don't know my own self because I don't even know why I am sad. It's just a normal behavior of mine. I cannot understand the reason behind my sadness. So just to summarize this part, this sadness makes me so absent-minded. So if I am sad, I will be absent-minded. I cannot enjoy with my friends. So I am very absent-minded, Antonio says, that it becomes very difficult for me to understand myself. I cannot understand my own self. I am absent-minded. I am sad. And that makes me tired of my own self. Okay. Next, Celerino. Now, Celerino is the other character. other friend of Antonio. Your mind is tossing. Tossing means is rolling on the ocean. Be very careful in this part. These parts are very important. According to Celerino, the reason behind Antonio's sadness is this, that he is very worried. He is a businessman. Antonio is a merchant. Okay, his ships. He's a person whose goods are on the ship. And you in the earlier days they used to carry the ship. They had ships, and the ships used to carry all the goods from one place to the other. So Antonio was the producer, and he used to send these goods to the other places by a ship, transported by a ship. So your ship can get into a lot of risk while it is traveling in the ocean, isn't it? There can be storms, there can be sand dunes which it can hit, isn't it? So his mind is tossing on the ocean. That means you are constantly worried about the risks that your ships can undergo. Your ships can meet a number of dangers in the sea. That is why you are worried about your business. There were your argosies. Argosies means the big commercial ships. These ships are owned by whom? By Antonio. These are Antonio's ships. Antonio is a very wealthy merchant. I have already told you. He had a number of ships. All those ships are carrying his goods to different other places to sell them. So if the ships get shipwrecked, or if any other bad things happen to the ship, if there is a shipwreck or if it goes anywhere else instead of coming back, then what will happen? Antonio will be suffering a huge loss. That is why he is worried, according to Celerino, with portly sail. So according to Celerino, the ships of Antonio are huge in size and they have portly sail. They have huge sails. What do you mean by sails? See, I have a picture for you so that it is easier for you to understand. These were the ships which were used many years back. These were the sails. This were used to utilize the wind force so that the ships can move. Okay, if the sails were out, if the wind force was this way, then the ship could move in the forward direction. So these sails were used for the movement of the ship. Now the ships of Antonio had huge sails. They were big ships. Big ships will have big sails. So Antonio's ships were huge in size. They had huge sails and a huge number of sails. Okay, like seigneurs. Seigneurs means gentlemen, and rich burghers, important citizens on the flood. On the flood means sea. So it means that Antonio's ships were quite like the very important personalities, very important citizens, maybe like the prime minister, the chief minister, the king. Okay, just like them, they are very important citizens of the country on the sea, moving on the flood. That means moving on the sea. His ships were so big that it appeared like important persons walking on the sea. Okay, or as it were the pageants of the sea. Pageants means as if it was a procession on the sea. When the ships of Antonio used to move, it seemed that an important person is moving. Okay, like when a chief minister goes, a number of cars follow behind him, isn't it? It is a very rich person, somebody very rich or somebody very renowned, like Shah Rukh Khan or any other personality. If they walk, then a huge number of people follow. So it was quite like a procession in the sea when Antonio's wealthy ships used to move. Though overpeer the petty traffickers. Overpeer means obviously Antonio's big ships were far better looking and grand than the petty traffickers. Petty traffickers means the smaller ships, the smaller businessmen used to have smaller ships, smaller sails. So when they passed by the side of Antonio's ship, they seemed very small in size. Beside this huge ship, if there is a small ship passing by, obviously it will look very small in front of Antonio's ship. So they appeared petty traffickers, smaller ones, that courtesy to them. It seemed that these small ships were bending their heads and showing courtesy to Antonio's big ships. Okay, do them reverence. That means to show respect as they fly by them with their woven wings. It seems that Antonio's ships, the sails of Antonio's ships, were like birds, big birds moving in the sky, and the other smaller ships that passed by Antonio's ship, they bent their heads down so that they could show respect to Antonio. Okay, to Antonio's ships. Next, Selino. Believe me, sir, had I such venture forth. So Selino says that Believe me, if I had such business tensions, if so many ships of mine were in the sea and they could endure risk at any moment, okay, then the better part of my affections, that means most of my thoughts would be still with my hopes abroad. I would be busy thinking about them. I would be constantly thinking about the risks that it could undergo. I should be still plucking the grass to know where sits the wind. So I would always be worried about my ships. And what would I do? I would constantly worry and I would be tossing blades of grass into the air to find out which way the wind was blowing. So that you can understand it better, I have a picture which will make you understand better. See, when you hold a piece of grass in your hand and lift it to the sky, what happens is if a wind is blowing, you can understand the direction of the wind. As in this picture, you can understand the wind direction is this way. Okay, so previously the ships had to depend a lot on the wind, isn't it? That is the reason why they had those big sails made of cloth. So they had to depend on the wind. If there was a storm, then you can understand that the ships would undergo a huge amount of damage. There could be shipwrecks easily. That is why, to understand in which direction the wind was blowing, if it was favorable for the ships, he would constantly pluck the grass and check which side the wind is blowing. What else would he do? Peering into maps for ports and piers. Peering means he would constantly look into maps, okay, to check where are the ports, where are the harbors. Piers means harbors, where are the harbors, where are the roads. Roads means the proper way for the ship. If there is no proper way for the ship, if there is perhaps an iceberg in the middle, or if there is a half submerged stone like you saw in the Titanic, then it would be a danger for the ship, isn't it? So he would be constantly worrying about all that. And every object that might make me fear misfortune to my ventures. So I would constantly worry. When I see something, I think when I see a storm approaching, I'm afraid that my ships can just, there can be a shipwreck. When I see this, I fear about that. When I see that, I fear about that. All the time I'm thinking about my ships and its risks. Out of doubt would make me sad. Out of doubt means out of fear of all that risk. I would always be sad and depressed, just like you. Next, Celerino. Now, Celerino goes on talking about few other things that would make him worry. What are those? See, he says, my wind cooling my broth. What do you mean by wind cooling my broth? See, broth means soup. Sometimes when you are given a very hot soup, okay, what do? You blow on it, isn't it? Just like this girl is doing, you blow on the soup so that it cools down a bit and then you can have it. So when you blow on it, next time check what happens to that surface of water or the surface of the soup. You know, there are kind of ripples formed, isn't it, when you blow on the soup? Now, if God was blowing on the sea, if there was a storm, that means if there was a storm on the sea, then what would happen? What would that wind, how would that wind affect the ships on the sea? There could be a shipwreck. So that thought, whenever I am given a hot soup and I am blowing on the soup, I think about that and that would blow me to an ague. To an ague means when you have a lot of fever, you tremble, you shake. And I would be shaking at that fear that it would immediately come to my mind that, okay, now if a storm comes and attacks my ships, then all my ships will undergo shipwrecks and then I would be completely lost. I thought, what harm a wind too great at sea might do. So when I am given a soup and I am blowing on it, I suddenly start thinking that a storm, a wind, a huge storm can cause a lot of damage to my ships.
अच्छी हुई एक्सप्लेनेशन पार्ट 2 में है. पार्ट 2 की वीडियो की लिंक इस वीडियो के डिस्क्रिप्शन में है, आप देख सकते हैं वहाँ से.